Good afternoon. My name is Cheryl Nickel, and I am the resource coordinator here at the Counseling Center at Texas State University. I am happy to present to you a resource coordination workshop today. We will be going over several different things, and the webinar format does allow for a little bit of privacy in that attendees are not able to see who else is attending. I am the only one that is able to see that, as well as any questions that are asked. The chat is disabled, but the Q&A is allowed, and that those questions do just come to me. And so if you have questions, you can go ahead and throw them in there, and then we'll be able to respond as we need to those questions and get everything answered. It goes without saying that if you watch this during the live session or the recording at another time, if you have further questions, please give us a call at 512-245-2208 here at the Counseling Center so that we can answer those questions for you, myself or someone else on our staff. Okay, so we will go ahead and get started here. I don't have a lot of PowerPoint for you, really wanting to just kind of summarize what we're going to talk about, and then I will follow up with sending an email to the attendees of the information and the links that we discuss. These links can also be found on our website, and I'll be referring to our website as we go, so you'll be able to see that information as well. But as you can see, and I'm looking at several screens, so if I look like I'm looking all over the place, that is why. We've got this slide here, which does have the main link to information on our website under resource coordination. I'll show you that in a moment. And there are 4 helpful pages there, including important resource information, understanding your insurance benefits if you have insurance. If not, and you're needing low cost therapy options, or looking at how to obtain health insurance, we're going to look at some options for that, as well as where to look to find a provider or a therapist and what to say. I'm going to drop a poll in for those on the live webinar to see if you have any particular needs in one of these areas related to insurance or not having insurance and looking for a therapist. So let me go ahead and launch that poll. If you'll take a minute to answer that, I would appreciate it. Okay, so we will go ahead. That helps me kind of know where to focus my time, but also I will reference everything so that you have the information as well. So then the next slide is an exact copy of the email that I am going to be sending you, those of you that attend, as well as the links that we'll look at on the website. So if you're looking at this on the recorded presentation, I'm going to show you where these things are located on our website. So you'll be able to check that out as well. And if you're attending the live version of this webinar today, you will be able to access these links, and this exact information that's on your screen will be presented to you in an email shortly after the meeting. Okay. And then before we end, we will have you do a short survey of the live webinar just to get feedback from you so that we can continue to make these workshops and webinars useful to our students. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. I'm going to go ahead and switch screens now. One moment. Now I'm going to share the screen again. Okay, so you should be looking at my screen. There's an email on the left and the Counseling Center website on the right. And so this information okay, here we go, much better. So the email on the left is what I will send the live participant or the participants of the live webinar today. And so you've got my contact information here at the end. It is best to reach out directly to the main number of the Counseling Center in the event that I am off or not able to respond right away. You can talk with someone at our front desk and they can, help you meet your needs potentially a little more quickly if they know what's going on. And we have crisis information here. You can go ahead and check out that information at our website. Now, the important resource information, there's definitely a lot of self-help resources you have access to. And so when you go to this particular link, you can see some of that different information. And this will take you to different parts of our website. So Therapy Assistance Online is a free app that you can access. It is not a therapist, but it does have therapeutic activities and information that are relevant to college students and many students have found helpful. We also offer live workshops in person and webinars throughout the main semesters. So you can check out our calendar as the semester goes along for that information, as well as the mindfulness programming. And we're really building that tool bank. This semester we still have some programming coming up. In the fall, we'll be adding to it. And so we're excited about what that brings to our students and how that can help with stress management and just general daily wellness. By doing some of these techniques. And when you go to these different workshops, you'll learn those skills and strategies and walk away with them. So that is a nice feature. We also have our recorded webinars that our staff have put on over the years. You can go and check these out. There are different links demonstrating videos, different topics, relationships, mindfulness, BIPOC, coping skills, self-love and self-care, other student resources, and information for faculty and staff. You can click on things and see kind of the length of the video and access those at any time. Okay, and then going up from there. So now we've got information on how much is it going to cost to see a therapist. Individual counseling is typically a once-a-week session. In an outpatient setting, so typically in a therapist office or on telehealth, Zoom, similar to what we're doing now, except we would be able to see each other. And that's kind of the standard practice of therapy if it's not in person. And so insurance benefits definitely most often have a mental health coverage for it. Now, what that's going to cost for your out-of-pocket remains to be seen depending on the policy. There are a select few policies and situations that do not cover mental health. So the biggest thing is you're going to want to call your insurance company and ask. And that can be overwhelming and intimidating. Some students are on their parents' policies, or if you're married or have another arrangement, you might be covered under somebody else's policy. And in that case, sometimes the person who got the policy is aware of this information and maybe you don't need to call. However, if you do want to contact insurance companies, to find out the details of your benefits, this is how you do it. You're going to call the number on the back of the card. It's typically going to say customer service or member services. And you're going to get yourself routed in the automated system to a section called benefits and eligibility, because you're wanting to find out what your benefit is and what you're, are you eligible for mental health care in an outpatient setting. And so then you're going to typically get to a live person eventually. And you're going to want to ask, and you can, repeat these two sentences I have highlighted there. You want to know, what are my insurance benefits to see a therapist, essentially. And have a pen and paper ready, because they'll start to give you some numbers, and it will sound like a lot of jargon that, if you're not familiar, can be very confusing. Ask questions. They are most often very willing to help you. And so a copay is one possibility of your plan. That's a fixed amount you're going to pay for covered health services to providers who contract with your health insurance or plan. So that copay might be $25, $30, $50 per session. So if you go each week, you would pay that every time you go. And that would be all you would pay, potentially. Now, another kind of policy is where you have a deductible. And that's related to your monthly premium costs that you or your parents or whoever is paying for your insurance. You can have a lower monthly cost, but a little bit more cost to go see the doctor. And in this case, the deductible is going to be a dollar amount that you have to pay yourself of your doctor bills for typically the calendar year, 12-month period. And once it adds up to that dollar amount called your deductible, then insurance often will help pay. Maybe they will pay 100% of the bills after that. Maybe they'll pay 80% of the bills and you pay 20%. It just remains to be seen what your co-insurance is going to be. So that can be confusing, can be overwhelming and intimidating. Don't let that scare you until you find out what policy you have to know for sure what you're going to need to pay, okay? Keep in mind that every policy is different. So a lot of these policies are through people's employers. So one company can have a contract with Blue Cross Blue Shield insurance that is a certain dollar amount for appointments. And then a different company can have a different policy with Blue Cross Blue Shield that's a different cost. So just because it's Blue Cross Blue Shield does not mean it's the same policy. The companies or the employers contract differently. Same with the marketplace. You can go on the marketplace and buy a variety of different policies from the same insurance company that are going to cost and have different kinds of benefits and coverage, okay? There is a glossary of health coverage and medical terms here at the healthcare.gov website. So that can be a good resource to check out if you want more information. When you do call your insurance company, it is a feature that you can ask them to email you a list of therapists for your zip code. I have ours listed here for San Marcos, but wherever you're living or going to be and wanting to see a therapist, if you're wanting in person, you'll want to make sure you give them your current zip code. A lot of times, students that are covered by their parents, the address on file with the insurance company is going to be that parent address back home, which may be, in another state or at least another area from San Marcos. So if you or Round Rock, depending on where you're a student, and if you are wanting to see someone in person, you want to make sure that they have your zip code to do the search for therapists. Now, some policies on occasion, most are going to cover telehealth. At this point, since COVID, telehealth is here to stay most often. We're waiting to see kind of what things will look like as the public health emergency ends in May 11th, comes and goes to verify everything. So that's something to keep in mind. But some plans have been covering telehealth at no cost compared to an in-person visit. Sometimes you have to use a particular telehealth provider for that feature, and that's not all plans or companies. A lot of them, it's the same price, telehealth in person, regardless of who you see, as long as it's the approved platform, HIPAA compliant and licensed people. So in network, therapists who take that particular insurance are called in-network providers. But that's what this question number 4 is. Then if the policy is through you or your parents' employer, their job, sometimes the parent and the family, or you and your family, have access to what's called an EAP, or an employee assistance program. And so sometimes the insurance company can give you the contact information to call for that. It's often a separate company. And so you'll want to get information about how many sessions are covered, because that can be some free sessions, which can be helpful in a short-term situation. You only need like 5 to 8 sessions. That's often all that's covered in a calendar year. You can check that out. If you want to see someone who does not take your insurance, you will pay a little bit more and have to do some of the legwork potentially, but you can ask if there's out-of-network benefits. Okay. Double check to make sure there's no questions. All right. So now what we're going to look at is, switching gears to low-cost options. If you choose not to use your health insurance, or you don't have health insurance. A couple things there with health insurance. I know some students get concerned because they are on their parents' policy. Maybe they don't want their parents to know that they're going to therapy, or to know what they're going to therapy for. As an adult, the laws do protect your confidentiality. And so the therapist, while there are limits to confidentiality that the therapist will inform you about, including if they're subpoenaed by a court, or there's imminent risk or abuse disclosed, then they are mandated reporters for that. But nobody can call up and inquire what you're going to therapy for. You will sign a release for them to send information and bill the insurance. And there is an expectation that information can be shared between the provider and the insurance company. But for example, if it's your parents' policy, they will get an explanation of benefits that says the name of the provider and the date of the appointment. They will be able to understand that it's therapy. They can Google the person and probably figure that out. But they will not be able to know what you're seeing them for unless that provider caters to a certain topic or population. They read about that in their bio, but as far as calling that therapist to get information just because they're paying for it, that is protected under your rights for confidentiality. And you can talk with your therapist if you have more questions about that as well. So what we're looking at here is information on how to obtain health insurance. As a student at Texas State, the university does have a couple of policies, or a policy that you can look at if you're a domestic student or international. And whether that is affordable to you or not, you will have to check that out. You can call and talk to the provider of that plan and see if that would meet your needs. Also, you can go to healthcare.gov, and there are a lot of different types of plans there. There's a lot of questions. This link goes to different people who are trained in the system and can help you understand how to answer the questions and what that needs to look like. so that you can be best informed on what your options are should you want to purchase health insurance. Low cost options, some of these will take insurance also, but there's a long list here that you can take a look at and contact. But these four here, I'm going to talk about most. So these three agencies, River City Advocacy is out of New Braunfels, Samaritan Center, Austin, and Capital Area Counseling is out of Austin. They all have programs where they do not turn people away based on income. And so you can contact, they will give you some paperwork or have you go to their website to fill out an application. You will answer some questions about your income and what you're looking for in a therapist. And then they will look at where your income falls on their scale, their what's called sliding scale. And they'll be able to negotiate a rate with you if you're not able to afford their full rate. And a lot of therapists individually will do this as well. And it's called sliding scale. Now, whether that is going to be affordable for you or not, that remains to be seen. River City Advocacy does offer in-person options in New Braunfels as well as telehealth, and Samaritan is largely telehealth. Capital Area might have some in-person in Austin, but then also does do telehealth. The downside is that these agencies are quite full and there is often a wait list. But I encourage you to reach out to them if these could suit your needs financially, and check them out accordingly. Then you've got this website, Open Path Collective. We'll take a look at that. So it's a database of therapists who pay to be listed. So it is not all therapists, but it is a lot of therapists who sign up because they want to offer therapy for a lower cost. And there are a few on in person, but many of these are going to be telehealth. So I encourage people to look at, you can search however you want to, but we're going to do the telehealth for the state of Texas. Now you do have some filters here you can choose. You can look at different specialties. This is where you can type in anxiety, depression, trauma, addiction, bipolar, whatever you're dealing with, you can type in there. They offer individual counseling as well as some of the other modalities that you might be interested in. If you're looking for a certain type of therapy, EMDR or CBT, you can type that in there if you know. If you have a preference in the race or ethnicity of your therapist, you can select that here. And then this tells if they work with adults or other age groups. If you have a preference of another language besides English, you can select that here, or sign language. And if you're looking for a particular therapist, you can search there. So then you'll hit submit. And how this website works is that they so they charge a one-time lifetime membership fee of $65. So you pay that once, and then you can access their in-office and online individual therapy sessions for between $40 and $70. My understanding that the therapist sets the rate, and so most of them are set at $70. And you can't search between the 40 and 70. You just find out when you contact them. Now, the other option is $30 for student interns, and that's typically going to be someone who is in grad school, getting their master's or a doctorate degree. They have to do what's called an internship or a practicum under the supervision of a fully licensed therapist. And so they're offering sessions for cheaper. They do sometimes have to record their sessions, and they would go over that you would sign informed consent before that was to happen, if that was okay with you. Okay. And so when you click on someone in these profiles, we're going to just talk about the profile itself. So you've got the name and credential, a picture, the email button. And the nice feature about this program is that they even promote it here. You can contact that therapist before you pay any money. So I've also got that over here in the email information. I encourage people to ask if they do a free consultation. That is a 15 to 20-minute phone call where you can talk with the therapist about your goals, what you want to accomplish in therapy, and kind of the symptoms that are going on for you, as well as if you've done therapy before, what you liked, what you didn't like. And then that gives them an opportunity to talk with you about how they would approach those concerns. And then you've got a little more information to decide if you like what you hear and you want to go ahead and schedule with them, then you can pay the website, or you can wait and keep looking for someone that might feel a better fit. In this profile, you also have a description here in the middle that they've written about themselves. And then at the bottom, skills and expertise and treatment orientations that you can look at. There's a little information about their identity over here on the right and their qualifications, that price range we were talking about earlier, and a possible location. Now, I am searching on here for online therapy, which it does say is available. These profiles on several of these platforms are not always clear. So if you were interested in in-person therapy and you were in the area of Live Oak, Texas, you would want to verify that this person actually sees patients there. Sometimes they'll have an address and not be seeing people in person. So you do want to verify that. Okay, so that is how OpenPath works. And so we'll go back here to the left and the information links. So I've got that information here, and it's also in this link. We've covered all of that I wanted to go over, as well as the health insurance. So now we're going to go to this link here, and this page on our website is finding a provider or counselor and what to say. So if you scroll to the bottom, you will have some helpful hints. I have encountered that a lot of students get tongue-tied or anxious and not sure what to say when they reach out to a therapist or provider. And so that can be a real barrier to accessing care. So I've created some helpful hints that you can kind of use to collect your thoughts when you're getting ready to reach out. I've went so far then as to put this into a script. So you can fill in the blanks with your personal answers and read this on a voicemail, say it to a live person, or even cut and paste it into an email. The reaction from many students is a sigh of relief and appreciation for this script. So hopefully you find this helpful as well. And, if you're looking for other kinds of services, you can just kind of change it up a little bit, but it does serve the purpose quite well. And then we'll go up here. And so now you've got a lot of different databases, and there's some being created all the time. So it's hard to keep up. But there's a variety of ways where you can look to find a therapist. I don't want to overwhelm people, but I also want to make sure you have information on what exists out there that might be relevant and helpful for you. And so you can, as I mentioned earlier, go through your website of your insurance company or call them and ask for providers that way. And these three websites here are specific to telehealth. So you would only do telehealth. That's a little quicker method of getting connected, because when you go on those websites or something like that, you're going to be able to schedule through the website. You might read a little bit of information about the provider and make your decision quite quickly, and maybe get an appointment in the next week or two, not having to wait and play some phone tag like you will with some of the others. And that, might work out in your favor. There are some specific to different race, ethnicity, and identities. And so you can take a look at any of those apply to you. As well as inclusive therapists. I've already reviewed Open Path. And then Psychology Today is one that has been around for quite some time. It does still maintain a lot of the area therapists. So it still has a lot of information. It's not all therapists. Therapists do pay to be listed, so it is not everybody, but it's a lot of them. And I've found especially the ones that have openings, although some people, as you can see here, have wait lists and are not taking new clients. I have it queued up to our zip code. However, that does not mean everybody in this search is seeing people in person, or even in this zip code. Sometimes they are nearby, and you can see that it takes a couple pages, I guess, to get there, but eventually we get to a place where it says, here, office is near. And so, they may be in San Antonio or South Austin, or even further out sometimes. Okay. So then you've got a variety of filters similar to that other database we were looking at, where you can look at a bunch of different issues and select what it applies to you, as many as you want. However, I do caution people that will really narrow your search. So, do it, see what you see, but also back off and maybe use just the top, 1, 2, or 3 things that you're wanting to address and see how that looks. Insurance, you can select your insurance if you have that. Also, if you do not have insurance and you want to kind of look at price, they've got different price points you can select depending on what your financial situation is, or you can select the sliding scale, as I mentioned earlier, and see what that looks like. Now, there are dollar amounts that start to show up on different websites. You can look at those. Those are often the full fee. So if you like everything about the person, I would not let that scare you away. Go ahead and call and talk with them about negotiating and see what they say. Okay. Now, you can also select the gender of your therapist. They have these 3 to choose from, if that is important to you. And then, depending on what your identity is, you can select from these with ethnicity, sexuality, if you have a preferred language other than English, and faith. And so I encourage people to select those, see what you see. Now, on that other page that I was showing you, there were some that were identity-specific pages. That is where you are likely to find a therapist that also is in that group. Not always, but most often. Whereas this search may find people who feel they can be allied with people in that group, as well as people in the group. So I encourage people to add filters, take them away, see what you see, and then, talk with them if you have a particular belief or identity that you want to make sure that they understand or know about, ask what their knowledge is of that. So again, similar database, you can go in, read about them, you see the name and picture, a place to email them. You can cut and paste that script. If you're comfortable sharing that information by email, email is not typically secure. So you just want to keep that in mind and limit the amount of information, personal information that you're sharing. Sometimes they'll have a website button. This person does not. You've got a description about them here in the middle, information about finances. So this person doesn't have any insurance listed that they take, and they just have this session fee, which is a lower session fee. Then you've got different credentials, qualifications, and endorsements. On the right, you've got different types of therapy, so you can click on and read about these and see what you think. CBT is very good for skills with anxiety and depression, ACT, EMDR for trauma. So there's a lot of good things there. You've got different things, even though we didn't filter for ethnicity, faith, language or sexuality, you're going to find that information kind of in this area. So if you want to watch for that, even if you don't filter for it, you can. And then they can put up to 3 issues from that long list. So they'll put up to 3 things in the specialties list, and then the rest of the things in issues. So depending on what you're looking for, you can see if it shows up here, or you can select it and actually filter for it, and it will show up here. And then again, they've got an address. So you want to check with and see if they're seeing people in person, what that looks like. Again, they don't always spell it out. So just because they have an address does not always mean they are or they're not. There's different credentials of providers that you can look at, and I have that information on that page as well. So you can click here and kind of read about what the different providers mean. There are fully licensed therapists as well as counselors in training. So you can take a look at what that is and what your comfort level is for those different levels of providers. Okay, so we have Psychology Today in your information as well. We have covered all of the information. So kind of going back to, let's go back to our PowerPoint. Okay, and so we've went over all of this information. It is found on our website. And so again, pull our website over here. So this is the main page of our counseling center's website. You can scroll down here to the different clinical services we offer, resource coordination being what we're doing and what I oversee. You've got information as well as an old video of me doing this exact same workshop. And then you've got the helpful resource pages. So we have went over the understanding insurance benefits, finding a provider and what to say, low cost options and how to find health insurance, and the other important information for resources. You're looking for medication evaluations. There's a little bit of information here on the health center and the finding a psychiatrist through Psychology Today as well. So I do appreciate your attendance and participation, whether it's in the live workshop today or in the future viewing this recording. Again, if you have questions, feel free to let me know. My email is not secure, but I welcome if you have a general question. You're welcome to reach out by email, just understanding that I may not be able to respond immediately. But if you have a more urgent matter, you are able to call our main office and talk with someone more quickly. Okay. We appreciate your attendance, and again, let us know if there's anything else that you need.